When you picture books, what do you think about? Are they boring old pieces that need to be brought to life? Well, you're on the right platform because over here on the Joy Book Club, we do bring books to life. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. It's a pleasure coming your way today because guess what? Dum, 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 dum. I have another fantastic book coming your way. This is where you get to read without reading. But I also encourage that as you join us, you grab copies of the books we look at. And today, yours truly, I'll be considering this book that stoked my ire at a point. But it's also a beautiful book about injustice, justice, and everything in between. If you're a feminist, this book is for you. And if you're an anti-feminist, I think this book is for you too. So let's fight over it respectfully on the show. Welcome aboard. Now, before I get to my literary fun fact for today, let me introduce my guests to you, starting from the right. Should I mention your full name? Hello. We have Anna Na Amanua Ankra. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Full name as well?
Sure, why not?
This is quite a responsibility, right? Nelly Nanajwa Bena Ajumanjemfi on the other end. Ladies, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Please tell us a bit about yourselves.
Yeah, should I? Okay, great. So a little bit about me. I am Director of Marketing and Communications for Academic City University College.
Okay.
Wouldn't necessarily describe myself as an avid book reader, but we'll get into this particular book and why it caught my attention.
All right, thank you very much. How about you, Anna?
Okay, so I'm a book lover, a language enthusiast, and an author as well. I do a lot of GA books and texts, and I love reading. So.
Okay. I was just trying to remember how it's what kase.
Yeah.
What's the kase again?
Len.
What kase ga. Gina Kai.
Yes.
A little ga I can master. She's excellent in ga. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining the conversation. But let me quickly get to my literary fun fact. Now, fact has it that former American President Theodore Roosevelt read one book a day. How many books have you read again this year? Anyway, so an interesting fact for sure, with today's distractions, we would find it difficult to read this much, but there are plenty of people that read a lot of books in a week, but one day is quite an achievement. So there you go. I don't know how he did it because no social media at the time, none of these book apps that read books to you and all of that. How did he do it? Unless it's fiction, but we can believe it and at least aspire to something like that. I hear there's something interesting about reading before you sleep. It does something good for the mind. So try. Even if a book every 2 weeks, not bad, yeah? Let's come back into the studio. And we're reviewing today Yomi Adegoke's The List. You should be afraid. You should be very afraid because you don't want your name on the list. So let's get into a bit about the author of the book and the blurb. Who does what? Who wants to take the blurb?
I think I'll give it to Anna.
Okay, Anna. Let's deal with the blurb for the book, or at least what some have said about this book.
Okay, so am I to read it?
Yes.
Okay, so Ola Olajide, a high-profile journalist at Women's Magazine, is marrying the love of her life in 1 month's time. Young, beautiful, and successful, she and her fiancé, Michael, truly seem to have it all. That is until one morning they both wake up to the same message. Oh my God, have you seen the list? It began as a list of anonymous allegations about abusive men circulated in secret to protect other women. Now it has been published online. Ola would usually be the first to report on it, calling for the men to be fired. Except today, Michael's name is on there.
Okay, so that's it for the blurb. How about the author? There's something little at the bottom about her.
Oh, yes. Yomi Adegoke is the co-author of the best-selling book Slay in Your Lane. She's a columnist at The Guardian and British Vogue, and she was named on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list in 2021.
All right, so a bit about her. Ladies, how did you find this book? I'll start with you this time, Nelly. Yeah, you had to start with that because, Charlie, this book, it be some way. Hey!
I mean, I think it played with my emotions. I'm not going to lie. I feel like I felt everything. I felt sad.
You stopped reading, you had to put it down.
I had to put it down at a point for about a week or so.
Right.
Where I was just like, I need a break from this. But I was sad, I was happy, I was frustrated, I was primarily annoyed at the characters for a good part of the book.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was good overall. Not bad. A roller coaster ride emotionally, but not bad.
For you, Anna?
Yeah, I think this book is a really interesting one. It's actually a page turner as it was described. It has so much, infuses so much emotion, brings to bear the reality of the situations in the book. And as it's set in present, as in this current dispensation with social media and everything, makes it very relatable. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Let me stay with you. Who's your favorite character in this book?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Okay.
Probably, let me say Michael and Ola, maybe. Very
The protagonists.
yes, very interesting choice. From the way Nelly looked at me, I'm sure she doesn't agree, but yeah, I think they are my favorite characters.
Your favorite character or characters?
I'd say Silly. I think it's not easy to...
Seeley.
Yes, I know. But I think there was something beautiful about how she kept her friend accountable, even in very difficult situations, and how, even with everything that she was going through, she was still there for her. Yeah.
No, I see. Okay, interesting. We'll wrap with themes in the book and basically what stood out for you by way of themes, the key threads running through the book.
All that glitters is not gold. Everything is not as it seems.
Okay, interesting. It's almost proverbial. Yes, for you?
Oh, love, I guess.
I know you're a sucker for it. I know. You went there.
Yeah, love. I think that's central to everything, from the bond of their parents, their personal bonds, the friendship and everything. Love was central to everything in this book. So I think for me, love does it.
Okay. For me, I looked at abuse,
Okay.
which is a reality in the book. Some people are culpable, but also injustice in the sense that some people were not culpable and they found their names on the list. And this whole bit about the power of social media and how people abuse it, you know. But we'll get into some of those as we get into the story. So we'll start, not from the very start, I'm starting from page 11. And ladies, you'll be reading along with me at some point. I'll read the first bit. Ola and Michael had met at a media networking event for Black Brits 3 years ago in the summer of 2016, when charts were dominated by the Drake songs that launched 1,000 situationships. Controller, One Dance, his feature on Rihanna's work. They hit it off immediately. She had been pleasantly surprised when he asked her out a week later, announcing her impending date to the group chat with the second best picture of him she could find on his Facebook. In the first, he was at an Independence Day party with his shirt unbuttoned down nearly to his navel, sporting a small Ghanaian flag as a makeshift bandana. Ola wanted to avoid potential fuckboy accusations. So the one she chose was a black and white candid that made him look like a motivational speaker. And oh, let me say this book is a bit explicit, and so you will hear some F words and S words, but it's the book, and it's raw, and we're taking it as it is. NGL, he's buff, Ruth offered in the St. Augustine's Finest WhatsApp group, but he looks like a F-boy, to be honest, lol. He looks like he played drums at church, Seeley added, and you know they are the worst of all. Apologies to all drummers, especially the church ones. Now, they admitted he was gorgeous, at least. Michael was even taller than Ola at 6'2", with almond-shaped eyes and flawless skin. Underneath a meticulously groomed beard lay a carved from black marble face. He was well dressed into details, never without a thin gold chain and a small hoop earring in his left ear that his mom had hated and Ola adored. His looks were all her friends agreed on when it came to Michael. Celie and Ruth weren't even sure anyone Ola liked was good enough for her, a reflection of their impossibly high standards. Once Ruth failed to maintain herself and perpetually celibate Celie didn't have to, rather than her bad taste, of course. So, she barely batted an eyelid at their view of him. Ola liked the way she felt around Michael. Looser, less herself, but more herself. He was street smart, funny, and kind. And although she didn't exactly like the fact that she always had to foot their restaurant bill, she liked even less what it said about her if she penalized him for it. With this gender pay gap you're constantly writing about, he really has no excuse, Ruth said when they started dating. When he started reading and got to this point, what came to your mind about this relationship, how it had started, and what likely it would end up in? I'll start with you, Anna.
Okay, so I thought these were going to be two very interesting people. You had just found out there was that pay gap, or one person employed and the other unemployed. In that setting or within that setting, there's a friend who's...
And maybe let's put it in perspective. The woman is Nigerian. The man is Ghanaian.
He's Ghanaian.
The man doesn't have a job.
Yes.
He's in the process of getting a job or applying. And the woman has a well-paying job.
Yes.
Okay. I put it in that context, especially because, yes, everywhere there's the expectation of men, but especially in Africa, it's like, yo, so yeah, go on.
Yeah, so you'd realize her friends had even started making some comments on that, which were very distasteful anyway. But that's the reality on the ground, and that's what happens in this part of the world, or yeah, particularly in Africa, where it's expected that men should take up some of these things. And here she is paying for dinner and all those things, and so that puts them in an interesting light. I like the way she introduces these characters and their whole relationship. Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know what your reaction is, but if you read on from there, now Ola has a penchant for touching her phone, so she's put this app called Blocked on her phone, and then it regulates her time on the phone and would not allow, it would literally block her out if she tries to get on the phone before she's supposed to. But then she realizes she's been missing a lot of calls, and she gets a message, for example, that says, have you seen it? Have you seen the list? Now, what exactly is happening here, Nelly?
So this is the point at which her whole world is about to implode. So her friends have seen the list and they've seen Michael's name on it. They are worried about her and her reaction and are trying to see if she has already seen it, which obviously because of the app you spoke about, she hasn't. So things are about to get dicey from here.
And Michael at this time, what's happening with Michael? He's also going through, I mean, a message comes through, is that S true? Like, you know, he's also, I mean, he wakes up. In fact, let me get to, I believe I should maybe get to page 19. Is it page 19 or page 26? Where Michael actually also gets messages and okay, yeah, I think that's it. As he opened, maybe one of you should read page 15. Anna, would you like to take from the third paragraph?
Okay. As he opened his wardrobe, Michael reached for one of the few fitted colored shirts he owned and a pair of smart black trousers, instead of his usual self-imposed uniform of a dark jumper, matching joggers and trainers. He knew he would be a touch overdressed for the notoriously laid-back startup, but he couldn't shake the scornful voice of his mother, sarcastically inquiring why he wanted to give off the impression of unemployment on his first day. He was about to make his way down to the kitchen for some breakfast when he decided to check his phone. It had been left charging overnight. But the moment the screen lit up, he knew something was wrong. 21 missed calls, 59 WhatsApps. His stomach churned. Who had died? Michael thought of his grandmother, who he didn't call anywhere near enough. The last time they had spoken over a week and a half ago, she was just getting over minor surgery.
Okay, let's end it there. And then Ryan comes in, and that is where the question about, is this as true, comes in. So from both ends, both with Ola and Michael, it's slowly dawning on them that something is wrong. But what exactly is the problem? But let's talk about curated, where Michael has got his latest job.
Yes.
This is like lifeline. Let's talk about his first day.
Where he is a diversity hire, yes. So Curated, I think, had been in the media spotlight for some time for having all white employees, I believe.
26 to be precise.
Yes.
And they were seen to be whitewashing and gatekeeping
Yes,
and all that.
exactly. So there was a bit of a backlash online against them around race, etc. And so they hired Michael as a way of, I guess, parting the sea of white. And it happened to work for him because it was also a dream job of his. It would put him on a certain stage where he's now able to pay some restaurant's bills, as well as do what he loves. And it's quite unfortunate that this sort of breakthrough is happening at the same time as the list coming out. It made me feel really bad for him.
Yeah. But let's also reflect on Frankie, or Les boss. Like, I read about her, even if you go and look far in front into the wedding and her popping up. And, she, there are just some seeds that are bad. I think Frankie is one of them. She's just like, she has it in to down or destroy men. I don't know. But the Woman Mag, where Ola works, yes, they are doing their feminist bit. But you can just tell, at least from where I stand, that Frankie is way off the chart. She's just cuckoo. I don't know what impression you got of her, though.
Yeah, she's one of the very interesting characters in the book. And I think Ola is even right not to have been sharing her personal life with her. And that sort of brings to the fore the fact that she didn't want to tell her about Michael, because when she assigned her that task, she obviously could have gone and spoken to her about it. But I think men are a no-no for Frankie, generally. So, and I think that could be the reason she started Women's in the first place. I think Ola was right about her all along.
Any thoughts on that?
I have a slightly different opinion. I think Frankie is a businesswoman. She goes where the money is, and I think at some point in the book she even says it, right? Where Ola asks her.
Yeah, she's in the business of destroying people's lives. It's all
It's
good.
not.
Once you make the money, it's like that song by Tupac.
No, I mean, people are collateral
You made your money in a bad way, but it's all good. It's money, right?
People for Frankie are collateral damage. She's running a business. Whatever it takes to get the views and the likes and the money is what she's going after. She doesn't care whether we're a man or a woman.
And that's why when she spots the list, she's like, ta-da! Ola, get on this. What she doesn't know is that Ola has found that Michael's name is on the list. And it's like, okay, ordinarily I would jump onto this. And it takes her days and she's not coming up with a story on it. And, there's an interesting part where Frankie goes like, I know you are, what's the word she uses? Is it irresponsible or something? Or like, but this one is excessive.
Yeah. Something about her always being disorganized. And
I think it's disorganized. I know and I'm like, you don't know what is going on. But let's read a bit from pages 45 and 46. Nelly, would you like to take from, so you can't prove it? That's like third paragraph. So you can't prove it.
Sure. So you can't prove it, Ola mumbled. Of course, great. She sagged back in her seat. Michael stretched his hands out to place them on her shoulders by reflex, but caught himself. What's stopping you from believing me? He was trying to be patient, but he was beginning to get frustrated. I would never hurt you in my life. You know that. I don't, she squeaked, her voice breaking. I'm honestly scared. A chill went down his spine as she said it. It's scary, Michael, seeing those allegations about you. I don't want to be one of those women who thinks that just because you haven't hurt me, you couldn't hurt. She stopped. Michael cleared his throat, taken aback by her words. They stung, but he did his best to appear reasonable. I hear you, but it's not my word against someone else. It's my word against we don't know who. There's no way of knowing who submitted what, no checks. It was a Google Doc that anyone could edit. How could it not be taken advantage of in the wrong, fucked up hands? She remained motionless for a moment and then nodded, though still stony-faced. Please believe me, he continued, encouraged by this small game. Trust the man you're going to marry over an anonymous person on the internet. That's all I ask. Ola reached into her pocket for a tissue and dabbed at her eyes before nodding again. It was only at this that he realized how tense his body had been. He fell back into his seat, deflating with relief. It was like an enormous boot, her chunky black Doc Marten, had been released from his windpipe. Ola believing him wasn't simply about the survival of their relationship, but his own sanity. He knew he was a good guy, and most importantly, Ola did too. He leaned over to place his hand on hers. She flinched. Confused, he asked, "What's wrong?"
Okay, and it goes on from there. The initial reaction of Ola, was she too hard? Was she just what you would expect yourselves to do? Could she have handled the situation better? Could Michael have handled the situation better? I mean, what was your reading of that first interaction after this had happened?
I mean,
And it's to both of you. You can start.
I think it's one of those things where it's easy to say, in my position, I would but
Until you're there.
until you're there. I don't necessarily think that she overreacted. If you think about who she was a feminist who'd made her name as a feminist, who was writing against men like this.
And if I may add, later she would be slayed on social media because it was like, feminist with an abuser. And even worse, she's covering up for him.
Yes. So it's also about her identity that's sort of being mixed up in all of this. Because it's not just about Michael could have done it, it's about who am I if this is the man I chose. It's against everything that I've stood for. So she herself is going through her own sort of existential crisis. And we all know that these things happen and everybody says it's not me, but how do you really know it's not them, you know? So I don't think she overreacted.
Okay. Anna?
I think it was a rush of emotions. I think she was confused, she was worried. There was so much going through her mind, and she couldn't come to terms with the fact that the Michael she knew, this is somebody she had dated, and to see his name on the list. Now, for Michael, I think he should have just blurted it out right from the start.
That what?
To let her know that he knew who it was, or there was something of this sort, because he had something to hide.
But he doesn't know at the time.
Okay, so although he had something to hide, I think he should have come forward with that. Because for someone to put you on a list, even if you didn't know, at least you'd be convicted in some ways. There's this happening.
But I don't know. I don't know whether at that time, Dude doesn't know what the
what's happening.
What am I saying? What am I confessing?
Yes.
And in any instance, what he's accused of,
He hadn't done.
physical, harassment, abuse. He's not done any of that. I mean, he's been a bad boy.
Understatement.
And when Ola's friends initially said he was an F boy earlier, he's actually close. he's done stuff in there. Quite a number of things. He's been naughty, but he's nothing like is being portrayed.
Yeah.
If you say he's a philanderer or he's dated women and sometimes ghosted some people, fine.
Yeah.
But that he's an abuser, he's not any of that. So I'm sure he's in shock. Like,
He's in
is
shock
that me?
as well. He's in shock. But I think for Edine, it wasn't an easy thing. She was trying to just find herself in the midst of all this, trying to figure out who Michael was. Because should I take his word for it, or should I just go with what is being said? And that's a whole lot of chaos.
So around the same time, we see Ola, engaging Seeley, among others. And I'm asking, okay, this is happening. Basically, your lives are crumbling to the ground. And you are deliberating a 979-pound wedding dress. I'm like, yo, you don't get it. There's fire on the mountain. Like, what's going on here? But then From there, we see that Mike is also en route. He's heading towards losing his job. When you read pages 66 and 67, you would see from the moment they met, she had known that Michael was flawed and hoped her blind eye to it wasn't indicative of a character flaw of her own, a manifestation of her daddy issues. Michael meant well, but had been laddish, problematic. Ola took pride, whether she admitted it or not, in the idea that she had tamed him. As a man, I realized this whole idea about taming is very problematic. As a man. If you meet an alpha, that's even worse. But this bit about daddy issues, I want to focus briefly on it because it appears once the father figure isn't there, especially for female children growing up, there tend to be issues. What they desire, what they could not get from their fathers in their men. And sometimes it poses a challenge for relationships. I don't know what your reflections are on that, very briefly though, but psychologically it said that something happens and it pushes, you would see that some of the women may even go for much elder men who act a certain way because they are hoping to retrieve the lost childhood. I don't know whether you have any reaction to that or whether we should move on.
I mean, I think my only reaction to that is the fact that Ola had a good relationship with her dad. So I was actually quite shocked when she started saying daddy issues. I mean, I know her father had a whole second family, but her mom knew and apparently seemed to be okay with it.
So the trauma from there, though, for her.
Okay.
Not the mother, but I guess for Ola. I don't know how you...
From knowing that her father had a second family?
Well, I mean, wouldn't you be traumatized?
But he's still daddy. She loved him.
I think at a point she was, the book described her as blaming her mom as well because her mom knew her dad had these issues and still lived with him. So I think she was trying to live out of that space, create an identity of sorts because in taming Michael, what it really means is, I guess, trying to not make Michael behave like her dad, maybe. So she had that. And I think psychologically, like you mentioned, these things happen and people tend to react in those ways just to make themselves feel better. Hence her taming, I guess.
Okay, so let me get here. Then there's a conversation between Michael and Sheun, his friend. And it's a bit interesting because you read it and you get a bit of a sense of how men would react to this. So I'm just reading some parts from 102 and 103. Mike, take whom to court? It was posted on an anonymous account by an anonymous person. Who am I going to sue? Twitter? And this was when Twitter was still Twitter, not X. They can't track IP addresses. Everything you say, I will have already tried, trust. I was thinking of writing a statement. Nah, F that, man. That's what people do when they did that S. Am I lying, Sheun? Facts. You end up getting dragged even more. Yo, they got my nigga danks on here. Now I know this S ain't real. Okay, I think I might just as well drop this in. Look at the timing, right? After the mixtape dropped, shaking my head. Bruv, I'm seeing Lewis Hale on here. That guy ate too. It's all mad. This is looking like one setup. I can't lie. Evil Eye ain't no joke. No joke. Did I tell you, man, about that one Dagenham thing that tried to say I emotionally abused her? Because I said her sister was buffer than she was. So you see how it goes. Like, dude said that. Someone's sister was more buff. No, she said, oh, he abused me. Like, hey. I mean, I'm sure Amani himself was like, hey, when did I do this? Sheun, I swear, you did try to move her sister, though. Amani comes back, yeah, but the way they try it with these made-up words, as soon as she started telling me I was gaslighting her, I think one word nowadays meant, what's gaslighting? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, goodbye. Once, as soon as she started telling me I was gaslighting her, I had to hit block real quick, using medical terms for common lies. How the F they got Mike on there and not Amani, though, real talk. The guy's a menace now. But it gives a certain impression of, you know, how they were reacting to it like, how the heck did this happen? But anyway, we have to take a breather here. I know it's getting very interesting. We're taking a breather. We're taking a break. We're still reviewing Yomi Adegoke's The List. a list you wouldn't want to be found on, though. It's not a Nobel Prize. This is an ignominious list. We'll be back after the break. And we're back. It's the Joy Book Club with Benjamin Akakpo. We're still reviewing Yomi Adegoke's The List. But it's time now for me to share with you my word in action for today, and it is sedulous. Sedulous. Or, if you want to use an alternate pronunciation, sedulous. It's spelled S-E-D-U-L-O-U-S. That is S-E-D-U-L-O-U-S. It's an adjective. And here's what it means. Careful and using a lot of effort. Careful and using a lot of effort. And I'm referencing the Cambridge Dictionary online. Here's an example. It was agreed that the few students sedulous enough to read the book deserved top marks for diligence. I guess Michael wouldn't get that, because if you look at page 125, paragraph 3, nights spent helping edit his show reel, proofreading his covering letter. In his curated application, she referred to him as sedulous. She was sure he hadn't even bothered to check what it meant. Well, I bothered to check, and now you know. You know what the meaning of the word is. But let's get back into our story. We're still here with Nelly Nanadra Bena Ajumanjemfi and Na Amanua Ankra. Or, hey, I left one out. Anana Amanua Ankra. Do you realize the two of you have mouthfuls of names? But let's come back into the book. Mike does lose his job eventually. And over here, I was fuming. It was like, okay, so the way life can be unjust. And let's talk about social media now. Social media is a thing for good, but at the same time, it can be devious and destroy you. What did you make of the social media effect as far as this book is concerned, and how you can be cancelled, cancel culture, like they can black you out for nothing done? Anna, starting with you.
So I think the entire book is based on social media, how it infiltrates lives, although it has several positives. There's nothing really to regulate the negative aspects, like finding yourself on a list with no justice to be served, and that's very problematic. It just marred their lives, right from the onset, where it was put out there, to a wedding that they had planned with so much money just being destroyed by a very little thing as a hashtag, and that was the end of it. So I think it's a very dangerous tool in the hands of the wrong people, for people to just curate a list, put together a list with names, not necessarily doing background checks, and just to get back at people, and especially in Michael's case, just getting back at him. That wasn't a good thing. There's no justice on there for people who really need a voice to speak on their behalf. I think that part of it is not something I'd like to experience, and the list just makes it clear.
And you know, it's interesting, just a short while ago, someone sent me a message based on an interview I had done, and this is a politician. Of course, I'm not going to mention the person's name, but the person forwarded to me, because I had blasted the person before, forwarded to me someone's assessment of when I'm wearing my other hat, politics and current affairs on my other show. And it was pretty spiteful. And I looked at it and I laughed, actually, because in my mind I was thinking, okay, do I know this person? And I actually sent it back to the person. I don't even know this person. And honestly, I don't care. And I probably wouldn't even meet this person. But anyone can buy 2 megabytes of data, 5 CDs of data, go on social media and write whatever, let me put it bluntly, nonsense, and think, you know, and someone will also lap onto it. It's just problematic. But that feeds into misinformation, disinformation, and how your whole life could be ruined on social media if you're not careful, because some idiot feels, oh, I stand on the left or on the right, or maybe even they just don't like your face, or they don't like where you're from. You know? The power of social media. How do we tame it? Because Facebook has been, Mark Zuckerberg has been before Congress addressing some of these issues, Elon Musk. Is there any way of regulating this?
how do you stop a wildfire?
Well, you get a bigger size of whatever, water or something to deal with it. And maybe you come at it aerially and all that.
Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, I don't think there's necessarily an answer for that yet. I think that there are countries that have laws against cyberbullying. There are countries that are doing a lot of sensitization around cyberbullying, etc. And those are things that we can try. But I also think that, I mean, coming back to the book, the thing that concerned me a bit, outside of, you know, what you were talking about around the real world effects of what happens virtually, is just how much power the characters gave to these online voices, right? So you'd find someone like Michael constantly refreshing the tea. Ola also eventually started doing the same thing. Somebody like Lewis essentially took his life over. And to be quite honest, for him, what was the effect? He was a huge football star. Nothing was going to happen. Nothing was going to change for him. But
His career was ruined.
how was his career?
Was it not the other one who... There was someone who lost his career, I think.
Yeah, but not Lewis. But not Lewis. Lewis was a huge football star. There was nothing going on. The only thing, he had a tip with his wife where his wife was like, what's going on here? But with the exception of that...
I don't know
He
why
had
I've forgotten the name.
financial issues, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
but
he
those
was
were
bankrupt
predated
and-
the thing.
yeah.
So how do you make the voices of strangers so powerful that you end your life?
But look at it. Look at it. The voices of strangers so powerful. Me, I tell people I have a thick skin. When I'm doing my other shows, people concern all kinds of... Sometimes I actually end up laughing at them, teasing them, and they get even more angry. Because, you know, from boarding house back then, if someone is teasing you and you try to resist, they will tease you. We join them, then it stops. So I know how to do this thing, but not everybody has thick skin. And some people, I mean, this book could have easily ended up with Michael taking his life.
Yeah.
Then you ask yourself, okay, can we apologize for that now?
No.
The person is dead.
Even in the case of Lewis, now everybody wants her to speak on his behalf, and the same people who use the tool are now here sympathizing with his family, but they have lost something, and everyone else is fine.
Yeah.
That's...
So I guess this also points to the fact that as we itch to, oh, I just heard that juicy bit of information about that person. Typing. Relax. I am at all. But anyway. So there are also some characters that I looked at, and yes, there's Lewis as well. But you look at characters like Celie, Rianne, is it Karen, Ruth. How do you find, because Celie, for example, is the voice of, this guy, oh, jogger. Rihanna is like, wait, how about there could be an other side you don't know? How did you find these characters? Just quick reflections on their approach to the problem.
Yeah. I think Celie's was informed by her own personal experience because she'd seen her own abuser on the list. It then made everything true. I didn't know that until like the very end, but then once I found out, it made sense why she was so...
I think basically what you're saying is when the only tool you have is a hammer, you see everything as a nail.
So I can tell. I think Ruth, true to character, she was just like, yeah, we are going with the flow. Life is great. Life is good. We'll see what happens.
What do you think about their characters?
I think Celie is very critical, maybe because of her upbringing, as well as seeing her abuser as well on the list. I think Ruth is more carefree and happy, and I think they were good friends to Ola in the period. I think they really helped her out, and for Celie to break down at a point and come forth with her own truths, I think it gave Ola some sort of perspective on the whole thing. Because at a point, she had left her at her wedding and she was confused. But for her to give her that meant that she had some closure. So I think they were good friends to Ola as well. Yeah.
Now, I imagine, you know, someone having to go through this. If you turn to page 139, and we're going to fast forward a bit from here. This is someone posting, and we know who that someone is, but later we'll find out that that someone is not exactly whom we thought. That gap-toothed narcissist, Michael K, needs to be got all the way up out of here at Mirror Risa 92 had written one day ago. He must be held accountable for his treatment of women. Rest in peace, Michael K. Ouch. The evil that you have done is enough. Maybe he was evil. Still, he had defended himself against that charge. How about you tell us all what apparently happened? He had replied when he had first come across it. Or can you not, because nothing actually did? Today, he tapped the thumbs down icon on the comment, feeling useless as he did, and went to her profile. Mirarisa 92, active member from outer space. We're dealing with aliens now. Member since May 10, 2019. Post 34. Last seen viewing this thread 2 minutes ago. As he read the last line of her profile, Michael stopped walking then and there in the street. 2 minutes ago, Jackie was probably still online. It had started spitting now, and his phone screen was dotted with tiny water droplets. He hurried as he tapped the message icon, wondering what approach to take. What could he try that he hadn't already? I know who you are, he typed slowly, passers-by groaning and shaking their heads as he blocked their path. I know you put Michael Cranting on the list. He had avoided mentioning his name up to this point, but fuck it, he thought. He knew it was Jackie. She likely knew it was him too. Why are you doing this? And please, for those of you who may now be joining, I said, this work is a bit explicit on some words, so bear with me. It is in the book. I try as much as possible to avoid, but where it comes out, it comes out. Can you put yourself in Michael's shoes at this point and the turmoil he would be feeling? How do you think, he would have felt at this point, Anna?
Michael.
Michael, like...
He was distraught. I mean, your first day at work and you've got all these issues. You've had to go back home. You thought you were getting back up and then you're shut down instantly, right on the spot. So I think Michael was going through a lot of emotions. It was very difficult for him. And to finally come to the realization that it was Jackie in his mind, or to determine that it was her. And maybe seeing Jackie as, well, maybe this person was harmless, and now this is what she's doing to me because of something that men would consider, oh, we're just playing around. I don't think he was having a good time at all.
It's interesting what you said at the end. Something that men would consider we are just playing around.
Yes.
I think there's something in there too. Yes, men, under certain circumstances, would just think, okay, we're just having fun and all of that. But to the other side, it is often more serious than that. Is there a problem in there? Maybe. Is it men being men and maybe stupid? Or is it women being women? Or maybe hyper? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think Michael knew he wasn't going to be serious with Jackie. He knew that she was an easy space for him, right? An easy thing to...
Easy space.
Easy space. Easy space for him. He falls back on her. She pumps his ego and then peace, right? Yeah. As though she's not a human being. And I think that fundamentally that was the thing that he got wrong there, right? That she was a person who had feelings. I think Jackie also made it a bit too easy for him, considering the fact that this was his second time around. Mm-hmm. They said once bitten, twice shy, but apparently she did not hear that adage. And so made it easy for him to come back a second time. So I think that, yes, sometimes we women need to be accountable for who we let into our spaces. But there's also an onus on men to be responsible.
I see.
With the emotions that we give them.
When he said once bitten, twice shy, though, something came to mind, a spin-off of the actual, phrase. Once bitten, twice from Shy Hills. I don't know anyone from Shy Hills watching today. But then there's also the visit by Michael's mom, his grandma, and all that, and the key in there. I loved those parts. But for the sake of time, I want us to skip and go to the wedding. But even before the wedding, I was asking Anna, all this is happening for the life of me. Why are they going ahead with the marriage? I don't know. Would you go ahead with the marriage? On the back of everything happened.
With so much doubt. I don't think so.
Like it's a dark cloud hanging over.
Yes.
You've not established what is going on. And later, Ola herself would say, I mean, yeah, she had her. Why did they go ahead?
I think she was planning it all. She had gone to do her fitting and all that. And I don't know, but I think they couldn't tell their families. They were assuming, oh, my parents are not on social media. They don't even know what's going on. And what explanations are we going to give? Here's Michael's grandma flying all the way there for a wedding. Up until the point she gives Michael's mom Sashuebi, they were still not on talking terms. And I think Ola was trying to find closure. She was trying to give herself a reason to go ahead. Until
You would
that...
have her have that conversation with her friend about
Yes.
it. And we've got to this point. We've done this. We've done that. How do we counsel at this point in
Yes,
time?
with
But
all
at the
the
same time,
money.
I was wondering, did it make any sense? If I find the page, I'll just go to it. Did it make sense for you?
No, I mean, there was a description, I also don't know the page, but there was a description that was used when she was walking down the aisle. Something to the effect of walking to the gallows or something of the sort. And so when I flipped the page and then it turns out that she had said, I do, I was like, sis, like what's going on here? You are walking down the aisle feeling like you're walking towards your death, and yet you still pledge your life to this man. I don't know what was going through their heads, honestly.
Maybe because the investigator didn't come back with anything.
No, but then you see, that's why we have gut feelings. And I think that that's also another thing, right? You know deep down that something is wrong. Why do you need... There's a reason God gave us instincts. At least pause. I'm not saying cancel the wedding, but you can move it. I mean, there are many dates in the calendar. It doesn't have to be that date. I don't know if you, if you understand what I'm saying.
I completely get you, but I think there was so much going on. I don't know whether, I think it may be 175. Let me just check. If it's not, then we'll move on. Okay, so I think, let me see whether this is it. Ola shook her head. Maybe I should have just ended this when I saw the list, but I can't drop him without knowing. I love him, Fola, too much. It sounds stupid, but I do. That doesn't make you stupid. That makes you human, Fola said. Her voice was an audible hug. Imagine the choices we'd make without love fucking up our faculties. I'm sorry, it is in the book. And I keep saying that because of our sensibilities here in Ghana, but yeah. And it goes on, life would be perfect, except we wouldn't have got lemonade or control, like on your computer, or like any Adele. Okay, we've been missing some heartbreak bops, but you know what I mean. She went quiet, the low hum of Kiss FM muffled in the background. But sis, whatever you choose to do, you have to do something, and fast. All right, now let's fast forward to the wedding. And there is Pastor Oyedepo and his... all of us sitting here are church people, so I'm sure we had a good laugh at this point. Anna, would you like to read a bit from Michael Reached the Front of the Church?
Page
217.
Okay. Michael reached the front of the church where Pastor Oyedepo, looking more like an accountant in a shiny grey suit, acknowledged him with a nod. His white hair was bright against his dark skin, and his heavily lined face became even more so as it crumpled with solemnity. Michael looked back as the bridesmaids and groomsmen entered next, Sally, Ruth, and Fola in differently shaped dresses in the same shade of emerald. Amani, Shone, and Quaps, like bodyguards with black shades perched on their heads. Sally was arm in arm with Amani and looking less than thrilled about it. Fola was linking arms with Shone, every bit the odd couple, and Ruth was using one hand to tag at the front of her dress and the other to grip the bicep of a smart-looking Quaps. Mike, okay.
Let's catch it there. What transpires at the wedding? And we can talk about Frankie showing up. We can talk about the discomfort at some point. And when we're done, I want us to look at, okay, so when your wedding turns into shaming, you're having your wedding, and on social media, it is bloody blue murder going on. Let's talk about the wedding.
The wedding. So after spending all that money on a wedding, and they finally get to say I do, But at the reception, everything becomes murky. Everything just... I think at that point, we're trying to even reconcile a bit. We're warming up to each other. And then the hashtag turns bloody. So I think the wedding was a mix of things. First, Ola seeing Frankie, whom she hadn't invited to the wedding.
That's her boss.
Her boss.
At the Woman magazine.
Yes.
Whom Nelly describes as someone who's all about the money.
Tenacious.
This one will change the song. It's not about the money. This one, it's all about the money. Money, money for Frankie, Charlie.
Yeah.
So from the feminist end, from the male end, I mean, what do you think are the takeaways from all of this?
I think it's complex. I think one of the huge takeaways for me from this book is the fact that there's a lot of nuance in life. There's no sort of black and white, right? Even as a feminist, Ola had to grapple with a lot of key questions, especially about a man that she knew was innocent, if not necessarily squeaky clean. Okay. From the male end, Michael he leaves a lot to be desired, but did not deserve what he got. But I think fundamentally, even in our quest as we pursue things like feminism and whatnot, which are very noble goals, we need to be aware that at the end of these are human beings, right? Louis lost his life, his kids lost their father, the wife lost her husband, because someone decided that they would use their power to essentially spread lies, right?
And this is not the court of law or the court of justice. This is the court of public opinion. Mm-hmm. And before you can say, Jack, you know, they say by the time the truth gets to lace its boots, the lie is halfway around the earth. But on the other end, for the actual abusers, the evil that men or women do lives after them. This has been our review of Yomi Adegoke's The List. But before I take leave of you, I'm going to give you my last segment, as always. My reading quote for you today comes from Holbrook Jackson, who says, "Never put off till tomorrow the book you can read today." Never put off till tomorrow the book you can read today. Which reminds me of the literary fun fact I gave you by Theodore Roosevelt, who is said to have read a book a day. How many have you read in 2024? The figure of speech I have for you today is prolepsis, spelled P-R-O-L-E-P-S-I-S. And anticipating, especially the describing of an event as taking place before it could have done so. It refers to the treating of a future event as if it had already happened. And you find a bit of that in the book we've just read. Or the anticipating and answering of an argument before one's opponent has a chance to advance it. An example is in Deuteronomy 34, verse 1. Moses was shown the land of Dan. However, it would be many years before the land he saw would be known by that name. And that's prolepsis. But I'm going to end, it's a little long, not so long. It's from Voices in My Head by Kojo Bafo. And he calls this poem, Sperm of the Moment. Sperm of the Moment. Engulfed in the throes of passion, my mind slipped, overlooking the endeavors of prophylactic prisons. On the spur of the moment, phallus creeping into unrestricted zones of erotic symbols. Blinded to the after the fact, assuming that when I roll over, shit wouldn't roll back. Unbeknownst to my unstable thoughts, the sperm of the moment had his own plan, and with one look, broke down the lay of the land. On a pseudo-drug trip, silently he exported fertilization plotted. In the race to create life, he swam fallopian tubes in a quest to fulfill inbred responsibility. Naturally aware of his true vocation, today was to be his day, as he outthought and outswam his brethren. Penetrating walls, union with his counterpart, divided cells into life and brought forth new meaning. And though caught off guard, I shall strive to make sense of life on this journey, to create a better life for the sperm of the moment, my child. And that is Sperm of the Moment from Voices in My Head, his collection by Kojo Bafo. This has been our review of Yomi Adegoke's The List. You can grab a copy from any of the bookshops, and I might as well say it, you can grab a copy from the Vidya bookshop as well, Hina and her crew. Thank you, Nelly. Thank you, Anna. Did you have fun?
Yeah,
was.
I had fun.
Okay. This was an insightful read. Next week, catch me again. I'll be bringing another installment of the Joy Book Club. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for watching.